Welcome to the buy list. This is a KO budget deck tech.
Yeah, we balling on a budget today, baby.
Yes, we are. So Nate, you put this butte together. I think it made a lot of sense when you told me like, hey, we should do a budget deck tech on KO.
Yep.
Um, he is a very he's very starter friendly, I think, and yeah, it makes a lot of sense to put this deck tech out.
Yeah. He is an inherently strong hero, very strong hero ability, and has a very good card pool. So like that just lends itself to like a very strong budget deck because he's not super reliant on his equipment. Scab skin leathers
Hmm.
basically just says block 3 because he never actually uses it. You're
Hmm.
getting a pretty like the gloves are definitely a downgrade. You're going from 5 value to 1. But you're not always getting the full 5. And Scowling Flashback is definitely a house of a card,
Yeah.
but blocking 3 is also very good on Knucklehead. And you just got to shove your raw meat in there when you can, right? Like sometimes you don't have tunic, it's fine. Can I say that on YouTube? I don't know
Yeah,
if I can.
I don't know, but we're gonna find out.
Dude, LSS did this. It's not my
Yeah,
fault.
yeah.
Um, so like raw meat, very good. Block 3 again. So you have a generically strong, aggressive deck that has an absolute house of equipment without spending a dollar, basically. You go to locals, anybody's going to give you most of
Yeah,
these cards for free 99, outside of maybe Crushers, but like they'd probably give you that for free 99.
yeah. No, it's a you bring up a good point there. There's still a lot of block on these cards for a budget deck tech. I know some of our our budget lists in the past have been kind of light on armor because obviously that's where the cost comes in a
Yeah.
lot of the times with competitive decks. But sometimes they bring in that utility, but here we get a little bit of mix of both, right? So beaten trackers gets you that action point once, it is battle worn too, so you can block with it and still get that action point later in the game. And as you mentioned, temper on Knucklehead is also very good. And raw meat also has temper as well.
Yeah, both of those are going to block 6. The other two are going to block 2. So you have basically 8 health sitting on your armor, and which is nice because this deck doesn't block super well. It actually blocks very well up until you draw some no blocks. Then it doesn't
Yep.
block very well at all. So you're just going to basically the game plan is going to be don't use your equipment to block until you draw your no blocks,
Yep.
and you have to block. Um, Outside of raw meat, because that's going to be a little bit more temperamental in terms of like when you can get
Hmm.
the value out of it. So like if you can get a really good value block out of it, I would just cash it in. But then like because of that, we were able to squeeze some like really powerful majestics into the list. So
Hmm.
as you can see, we got Cast Bones,
Yep.
we have Blood Rush Bellows, and we have Savage Beatdown in one tear limb from limb.
Yeah.
These 4 majestics plus a reckless swing. These 4 majestics are going to set you back about $45.
Hmm.
So, very reasonable investment. So, like, you could take this to an armory and win. Like, I have every faith that like this deck is definitely a deck that could um, win an armory.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, I
very powerful.
sleeved up KO this week to go to an RTN, and when you sent me the deck, and I was kind of looking through it, Nate. Honestly, it looks very similar to what I to what I was running. I mean, you have
Yep.
to look kind of close to see the differences. I guess we should point out too that we're targeting $50. We try to stay around $50 on these decks, but this one, with the cast bones, with the blood rush bellows, as you mentioned, pushes closer to 45, 50. Overall, the whole deck is like 60 to $70. You could probably even get it cheaper than that, some trades and things like that. Cause, some of these older cards, reckless swing, things like that, people have them laying around. So,
Yep. Yeah, 100%. In one of the things like Cadaverous Contraband is one of the cards that people might not think about, but your best cards are actually your non-attack actions, even though the rest of your deck are sixes. So like being able to put the Cast Bones or the Blood Rush back on the top of your deck is basically a must block for most decks, which is kind of taking that place of like Command and Conquer or Send Packing, because while it doesn't destroy their arsenal, they can't let this card hit because you're just going to put a Blood Rush back on the top of your deck,
Mhm.
or Cast Bones if you haven't seen Blood Rush yet. So um, deck is just going to be like very consistent, and just kind of like the hands are going to very much play themselves too. Um, Kind of trying to set up your agility tokens for your Savage Feasts. You get your first Savage Feast for free off the boots, which is like quite nice.
Mhm.
Um, that is when you're going to be breaking the boots to gain an action point, typically, is like Savage Feast, because that's going to be one of your wider turns. But then the deck is going to try to fit into a 2 blue into 2 cost claw 2 cost, which is why we have the predatory assaults, the pack hunts. Um, all in the deck is like, that's kind of the curve you're trying to meet. And the Clash of Agilities are great for that as well. Like, you're not always going to be blocking with this. Sometimes you're going to be attacking with it because it fits that 2 cost claw 2 cost curve
Mhm.
very well. And then we have like Savage Beatdown, one because it's the best card in Brute. Don't at me. Um, but it also gives you a very nice like 4 card play where you can discard one of your windups for a like 4 card 13 plus agility, which like I would attribute the agility token to being like +2 to 3 in this deck. So uh yeah, really strong. It's gonna do well. And we can slide down into the sideboard too.
Mhm.
Because like the rest of it's just kind of like generic good stuff for brute.
Yep.
Um so because we didn't want to spend any more money, we have Sink Belows. We don't have No Fears because No Fears would take that slot. Because
Mhm.
it's better than Sink Below in this deck. But Sink Below is going to be for the decks that like you just want to have a little bit more defensive capabilities into. And then you got Savage Feast, Assault and Batteries, and like Agile Windups. The sevens are going to come in for Prism. Um, Rising Power is another 2 cost that you're going to slot in matchups where you might fat deck, where it's like, all right, I know this person plays Degenerate Fatigue. I need more. I need a little bit more junk in that trunk to
Yeah.
play today.
Mhm.
And it's just another 2 cost that fits that curve that you're trying to hit. Is 2 blues, 2 6s in the claw, chef's kiss, and then heart and cross trap is for when you need to go burr.
Mhm.
So if you're playing into like ninjas, anything that is probably going to try to end the game in less than 5 turns,
Yep.
that's when you're going to want to play cross trap. And then you got your null rune and your skull horn, because Kano is a thing.
Yeah. He sure is.
So that's it. That's the deck, baby.
Yeah.
Go out there, go slap some fools with it and slave it up and keep it for your newbie.
Yeah, this this deck I could see winning some games at an armory for sure. This is
Yeah,
maybe one of the I think this is probably the strongest budget deck tech we've done, honestly.
Katsu's
Um,
better, but whatever.
Yeah, possibly. But
Yeah,
we are adding in some majestics into this deck to make it function too.
yeah,
I would say upgrade path, Nate. I'll go first. I think your armor suite is definitely your
yeah,
upgrade path here. You really want to get bone breaker for the arms
yeah,
and the headpiece. I think you could probably go tune. You could wait on Tunic. Tunic is a little bit of a pricier card, but yeah, the arms and head in this deck put it to the next level. The intimidate on flesh
yep,
bag is really strong, and bone breaker getting that extra value. We've talked about it in past episodes. Getting that might token on block with another six is really nice.
yep. Chef's kiss. Um, yeah, I think like honestly, scabs is probably the last thing you need to do to get
Yeah.
this deck to full power, which is kind of funny. Like Tunic's great because like, listen, if you like the game called Flesh and Blood, you probably already own one of those, right?
Yeah.
Um, So like, and if you're gonna play the game of called Flesh and Blood, you're probably gonna want to get one of those, because it's just generically powerful across all classes and all heroes, and will
Mhm.
probably slot into a lot of decks. And then in terms of the deck itself, swing, man, what's the least expensive of the triplets there? So swing big, CNC, send packing would be the immediate upgrades. First things I would start taking out would be like the yellow wild rides. Not a great card,
Mhm.
but you're just trying to kind of go burr and go burr quick.
Yep.
Um, so like because you don't have the cards that force your opponent to interact as much, you just have to go quicker than them. So as you start to add in things like swing big, CNC, and send packing, the wild ride is probably going to come out first. And then you can start taking the cute stuff out. Like maybe you can take the savage beatdowns out if you're a coward. But like CNCs are probably going to take that spot just because it forces the interaction. And send packings as well. And then like predatory assaults, cadaverous contrabands are also on like that kind of on the chopping block. Once you play the deck, and like you'll start to feel like what feels good in there. So,
Mhm.
um, but overall, I think like
I would say a mid-tier majestic, somewhere if you are really just stepping up into it would also be E-strikes. You could probably
yes,
throw
yeah,
some E-strikes in there for 30 bucks a piece. If you're
yep,
not if you're not sure on the hero yet and you don't want to drop that money on the swing bigs, E-strikes will give you a little extra boost. Um,
yep.
and lower cost, right? So don't forget about E-strikes either.
Yep. E-strikes are great too. And then no fears are kind of like that sideboard upgrade where
Yeah.
you would replace like the sinks with that. Um, but like overall, like very, very powerful starter deck that has like really cool, interesting upgrade paths for that. So
Hmm.
go take it to your armories, go punk some fools, and let us know how you did. Let us know if
Yeah.
like you give it to a local to sleeve up, like a new player, just to kind of like who's like kind of like fab adjacent, like kind of peeking their head, and you're like, here's KO. It's like
Yeah.
crack cocaine.
Yeah. Tons of fun. But yeah, leave some comments down below on how you did, and we'll keep an eye out for them. Thanks, everybody. Peace.
Peace.